Good evening, my name's Wayne. I am the Lone Headbanger. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's video. This week I wasn't particularly sure about doing this particular subject. I know I have mentioned it in the past, but I ummed and ahed and I thought let's give it a crack and see what happens. So this week's video is going to be on faith and belief. Now, I'd like to start off with a disclaimer and say that anything that I say today is based on my personal experience and it's what's relevant to me. It may not be the same for other people. This is just my side of it, so don't take this as gospel by any stretch of the imagination. But this is my angle on it. So, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I was christened a Catholic, but we didn't really follow any religion. We didn't go to church until a Jehovah's Witness knocked on the door once and my mum answered. And long story short, she took the religion on and raised me and my brothers as witnesses. We were never baptised as a witness or anything like that, but we started reading the stories and taking it to heart. And this was just my mum. My dad being, my dad wasn't that bothered with it. He wasn't. He's an atheist. He doesn't believe in God. I don't believe so. Therefore, he didn't take an interest. So it was just mum and us really. And as I've explained in my previous video, when we got to or when I got to a certain age, music started to take my life over instead, and I found more answers in music than I did in religion. So therefore, it was the next the logical step just to try and follow what I needed at that point in my life. Now, I do still like the idea that there is someone up there watching us, and make sure, trying to make sure everything's okay. Obviously, life is an absolute struggle, but I do like the idea that there is someone up there and there is something in the great beyond. But unfortunately, as you've obviously seen the way the world is at the moment, it's becoming harder and harder for me to justify that kind of angle. With the world being the state that it is, and people are often saying, what kind of God would allow this to happen to people, to children. Now, the witness's angle on it is that obviously you've no doubt heard the Bible story of Satan tempting Adam and Eve, and then the battle of heaven and Satan being cast down. Now, obviously, most people believe he was cast down into hell. The Bible actually says he was cast down onto earth. So he's down here, and that's why the witnesses believe the world is so bad, is that this is Satan's world, not God's, and therefore that is why it's in the state that it's in. They also believe that Armageddon, so the end of the world again, is on the way, and that's when apparently God will say that's enough and there'll be one last great battle. Now, as I said, I'm finding it harder and harder these days to find faith in the explanations. However, I think anyone can see that the world is slowly destroying itself. Humans are gradually steering themselves towards self-destruction, as far as I could see. The governments of the world are just becoming more and more power hungry, and it will take something miraculous to either save us from ourselves, or alternatively we will probably end up destroying ourselves. So whether you believe that's the Bible's prophecy or whether that's just human nature to destroy, I'll leave that up to you. Despite that, I do still follow elements of the religion I was brought up with for no reason other than they are good life morals, and there are some good life pointers in there. Don't get me wrong, I've seen people say that if you need a book like the Bible to make you a good person, then it's not religion. It's not religion you lack; it's morality. So I'd like to think I'm a good person anyway, and I don't need I don't need the stories, but they are a source of good advice, and they are good stories in themselves, and they teach valuable lessons. So I won't disregard those lessons altogether, simply because they work. You know, there is some good advice. Don't get me wrong; a lot of the Bible is a little bit, well, if you read it properly, talk of wearing different cloth means you're getting stoned or whatever it is. You know, there's all sorts of bizarre and strange things. If you followed that Bible to the letter, you wouldn't have a chance these days. I think that's just why people tend to pick and choose. Now, people have often asked, well, they did when I was practicing the religion, how I can believe in such a religion and such a God. Which is a fair enough question, as I said. You know, the state the world is in, you know, why would you? But my belief is that it's about faith. Now, faith is different from belief. You know, you can believe something, which is fine, and you know, you don't necessarily need direct physical evidence. You can just believe that something's happened. But faith is well, you've heard the term blind faith, and that's exactly what faith is. It is blind faith. It's not, you're not seeking to have proof of anything. You just believe it, and that's what faith is. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can search for answers and find answers that suit your faith if you really look carefully enough. I'm sure you can find them. But that's the difference. Faith. I always think of faith as blind, and you basically believing what you want to believe in that respect, while just having a belief is more like, well, a more general way of putting it. And I personally, with the faith thing, it saved my mum's life. My mum's faith saved her, I think. It pulled her out of her deepest, darkest moments, and gave her something to live for. Now, that's just faith. That's not belief. That's not, passing interest. That is throwing herself headlong into this religion, and it saved her. So, what I wanted to move on to is that Mum was saved by that religion. In a similar vein, I believe I was saved by music. So, my point is you can have blind faith and belief in absolutely anything you want to. You can believe in God. You can believe in Transformers and that Cybertron's up there if you really want to. If you really want to stretch to that. Sure, some people would. You could believe the Jedi religion's real, but it doesn't matter what you believe, as long as it's making you happy and it's helping you. That's my angle, is it doesn't matter what you believe, as long as you're not hurting other people. Now that's where obviously we get problems with religion, and this isn't specific religions, this is all religions are guilty of causing damage. I mean, for example, obviously we know about religious extremists and suicide bombers, that's one thing. But then you have the Christian church over in America who take donations and end up buying $1 million homes for themselves, and living a life of luxury on other people's money because they've donated to the church, believing to be doing something good, when all they're doing is fueling some Christians' greed. Now, if they were a proper Christian, they wouldn't have $1 million homes, because greed's one of the 7 deadly sins, and Christians are supposed to steer clear of them. So there's a contradiction for you. So what I'm trying to illustrate is there's good and bad in any religion. But as long as you believe what you want to believe and don't hurt other people with it, then that's fine. As I said, being a Christian doesn't necessarily make you a good person. You know, you could go to church on a Sunday and then you could go home and beat your wife afterwards. Does that make you a good person because you've been to church? No. And at the same time, you've got Luciferians, you know, the Satan worshippers. And it's like, yes, there's all sorts of darkness surrounding that. Or even Satanists, who, as far as I can see, is a fairly neutral kind of thing. But again, if they're not out, as long as they're refraining from going out and stabbing people, what's the harm in that religion? It's in fact, you know, Satanism, from what I've seen of it, I need to do some more research, I admit. But it seems to be almost a selfish religion, and it's very self-centred, but it means not affecting other people, so, you know, nothing wrong with that. That's less harmful than certain aspects of Christianity in my book. So my point is that, as I said, there's good and bad in any religion. It's just really up to the person who is following it. Now, I understand, obviously with Jehovah's Witnesses, with the preaching and knocking on doors, people don't agree with it. And on one hand, I can understand the frustration. On the flip side, if you think you're onto a good thing, why would you not tell people about it? In fact, it even does say that they are supposed to do it. Now, with the witnesses, if they knock the door and you say you're not interested and ask them to take you off their list, then they won't bother you again. You know, if you want to show up to a door naked with a shotgun, that's fair enough. But all it takes is a, no, sorry, do not call again, and they will put you down as such. There's nothing wrong with spreading your religion. However, nobody likes a fanatic. I mean, I've seen enough preachers in Birmingham shouting rhetoric, yelling that we're all damned and the world's going to end. Nobody wants that. I don't agree with that kind of thing. So, like I said, spreading a good thing is fine, but don't overdo it. Know where the boundaries are. Stop when people say, and don't ram it down people's throats, because it's not going to help your cause. All it means is that they're more and more likely to turn away from said religion. And I'll say that defeats the object then in that case. So that's my take on the preaching side. And that pretty much wraps it up for me, actually. I haven't got much else to say. I really wanted to just stress that, as I said, you're okay to have your beliefs. You can believe what you like as long as it's making you happy. It's not like making your life a misery. If you need to follow a religion, that is completely your choice and all the power to you. But the religion doesn't make you a good person either, and you've got to have some sense of morality for yourself. There's no good or evil. I won't say in any religion because I don't know about all of them. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to be a good person, and I'm pretty sure most people know the difference between right and wrong, and you don't need a book to tell you that. That's what I'd like to think anyway. But I'm going to leave it there, as I say. What I did want to say is, obviously, there are people out there who know me, who do know my religious background, and there are people out there who don't and may be surprised by this. And I'm always willing to have a chat about my faith because of the way the world is at the moment, and obviously the influences that I've come across. I'm still working my faith out and trying to decide what I believe and what I don't. I'm still trying to find my way, trying to find my reasoning. I won't ever be fully a Jehovah's Witness. It won't. But maybe I'll find something else. But I'm just trying to work myself out. But I'm quite happy to talk about my time as a witness and the beliefs that I do hold. So if you do want to question me on that, by all means drop me a comment, or if you've got me on Facebook, just send me a message. I'm happy to chat about it. So I'll close off as usual by saying, as I've discussed, tough world out there. Absolutely horrendous state of affairs. I think we're all struggling, but if you can find your faith and belief in something, it will help you get through. And you know what? I've got faith in you. You should too. So, in closing, my name's Wayne. I am the Lone Headbanger. stay strong, stay safe, and I'll see you next week.